Welcome, everybody. If you can see my screen, please put a 1 in the chat. If you could see my screen with the Deepvue up on it, there should be the Deepvue screen. Please put a 1. And if my audio is good, please put a 2. That way I know that the audio is working and the screen share both are working. Awesome. I see a lot of 1s and 2s, so no audio issues, no screen share issues. Perfect. Next is I've created a poll with a couple of questions that I would like everybody to answer, just to give me a gauge of, how things are going. So I've made those polls live. They should pop up on your screen right about now, and that will give me a clear direction on how I need to tackle this webinar and how we need to go about things. There's over 300 of you already here. We'll give it about another 30 seconds to a minute while the polls get going to see if we get to max capacity, which is 500 people for this webinar. And if you've registered and you need to step away, I understand it's Sunday. That's perfectly fine. This is all being recorded, and if you're on the list, you will receive the recording. Before we begin, I do want to say that there will be another webinar related to earnings season that I will be doing next Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. And the link to that is, I just posted it in the chat over here. So you want to go ahead and register for that one. We will send out reminders and recordings to everybody that is on the list. To ask questions throughout the webinar to keep everything organized, because it's just me today with no help. I would appreciate if you could put all the questions that you have in the Q&A tab at the very bottom of your Zooms. There's a Q&A and you can ask any and all questions. I'll try to rip through as many as I possibly can. And that would be super amazing, because then I could just look at Q&A in one spot and I don't have to look at the chat and the Q&A. Cool. We're now closer to 400 people. I gave out the CTAs, and the last bit before I get going is throughout this webinar, we're going to run a special offer for Deepvue. I'm one of the co-founders of Deepvue. We're building a platform for swing traders, investors in the markets, and we're doing a lot of great work and a lot trying to make things, make this the all-in-one platform that you need for your trading, so you can cut all your other subscriptions out there. So you want to email hello@deepvue.com with just the words RAI webinar, and the support team will take care of you and give you that offer. So enough of that. Let's get into exactly why we're here today, and which is how to find some of the best stocks in the market while the market is correcting, how to gauge how things are happening in the markets themselves, like if we're in a choppy environment or if we're correcting, is it a deeper correction that we're going into, or the market is just trying to shake out the weak hands, make the impatient people drive them nuts, so that we can go right back higher. So the first question that I had on my outline was, what defines a true market leader? The basics of a true market leader, or a leader in the markets, is essentially a stock that trades on its own merit, that trades on its own strength, and is waiting for the market to get good so that the price can double and triple thereafter. And that's really the basis of all of it. And one way to capture that throughout a life cycle, like a cycle of a market, where we go from, if we take Stan Weinstein's analogy of stage 1, where we get a consolidation, stage 2 is a markup, stage 3 consolidation, stage 4 right back down. What we're trying to see is which ones are going sideways when the market's coming down, which is essentially relative strength at the end of the day, right? So we'll cover many, many different ways that we have in Deepvue or any other platform that you're using on how to track relative strength, how to kind of gauge potential of stock A has more potential than stock B in the markets, so that you can concentrate your efforts on the ones that have the highest potential or the potential to really go when the market pressure lifts. So one of the first ways that we've done that is we've built a screen called Deepvue Leaders, and I'll discuss the criteria. And I really want this to be a learning opportunity, not a pitch for Deepvue, throughout the webinar, is to look at stocks that are some of the most highly liquid, well-performing stocks on a certain time horizon that have good fundamental criteria to back them up, and also ones that have recently IPO'd, because younger companies have less baggage associated with them and more potential associated with them to be, ones that go up uh, quite quite a bit. So the Deepvue Leader screen essentially looks for highly liquid stocks that have a average daily range of 2% or more. So on average, they're pretty volatile. So we want momentum in the markets as swing traders or position traders. We want directional momentum. Uh, we took, all the lower price stocks kind of out of the equation here, and we added a bunch of criteria, which is both momentum related and fundamental, related, in the rest of the scan here. So we're looking at some of the top stocks in the market, which we use absolute strength or relative strength for. The difference between absolute strength is it's based on price performance in the markets, whereas relative strength is weighted based on time frame. So we're looking at stocks that are top 15% of the market in terms of performance on a 1 month, 3 month, or a 1 week basis. And then we're looking at if any of those stocks have some of the minimum criteria that we want in terms of earnings growth and sales growth. So one of the things that I like to do during corrections is to look at the Deepvue Leaders screen on a daily basis to see what's really performing in the markets, and I add the relative strength 1 day column. So relative strength 1 day is essentially we're taking all the stocks in our database and saying which ones are the best performers today. And this, combined with the industry column that you can add, will give you a good idea of which group in the markets is exhibiting relative strength. And some of the ideas that you will see on here, something like Marvel, really strong, was in a relative strength phase, had a higher low, was consolidating as the market pulled back in, is now a good criteria, is a good one that could, go into a trend as the market pressure lifts day to day. So sorting your Deepvue Leader screen by relative strength 1 day can be one way for you to, just go through. And usually it's about 100 up to 110 names that you could take a look at. And it will give you a really good idea of what's performing well in the markets and what isn't performing well in the markets. You'll see some of the stocks like Hood, which have acted really well and gone to new high ground really, really quickly. And also, Marvel, CRDO that is acting well, has, sideways consolidation and is now attempting new high ground right away. And a lot of these other ones, right? ABGO is starting to shape up, has consolidated, didn't, break the gap low recently, and now is shaping up the right side. So this screen, the Deepvue Leader screen, will give you some of the best ideas in the markets, some of the strongest stocks in the markets. And one way when we're in a market correction is to sort it by relative strength 1 day. The second screen that I like to run in market corrections, and when the market's a little bit choppy or however you want to define it, is the relative strength new highs. So the relative strength new highs essentially looks for stocks where the relative strength line, which is this blue line that I have up on my charts, is making a new high on a 1 month, 3 month, or 6 month basis, depending on the screen that you're running, right? And that's just a way for a stock to tell you that, hey, I'm outperforming the markets. My relative strength line, my performance versus the market is much better. And that's why you want to, take a look at this particular stock that's showing up on any of the relative strength screens that we have. So I, I do a lot of relative strength based screening, and one of them is relative strength new highs, and another one is a special from Ross, is when the relative strength line makes a new high before price. So if I run this scan, so price is not making a new high for this particular example, SE. It has consolidated sideways. The stock is starting to shape up and go up the right side, right? That's exactly what you want to see here. It had tight price action the last 3 sessions, and we broke out on Friday. We closed strong as well. And when we did that, the RS line is making a new high while the price is still well below that 118. So this phenomena in the markets where the RS line, the stock is much stronger or has been much stronger than the markets, where the RS line is making a brand new high, but the price is still kind of lagging. The idea here is that the price is about to catch up and break out. So this one was something that Ross, one of my mentors, came up with. Ross Aber, he's also a co-founder of TraderLine and Deepvue. And this concept. He's really big. He's running the relative strength new high before price screen to see what's outperforming the markets, but the price isn't indicative of that just yet. So this is a really good one to run. So if we're in a 3-month correction, you probably want to stick to a 3 or 6 month. If we're in a shallower consolidation that's going sideways, you want to stick to the 1 and 3 month there. The third kind of, very simple screen that you will see a lot of traders talk about, and I would say it's one of the easiest ones to catch, kind of what is strengthening in the markets or what is about, which sectors or which themes are popular, is the 52-week high screen. It's very simple. It gives you stocks that are making new 52-week highs right off the bat. And you couple that with the industry column, you can really see which industries or sub-industries are breaking out in the markets. So we highlight that as blue. So the most popular industry in this particular scan is the oil and gas. And that you could kind of tell, energy has been the play since January. And we'll get into how we can, kind of narrow it down to why energy is one of the top at the moment, or top 3. So the 52-week high screen, very simple. You can make it part of your daily routine and take a look at these names. This will give you where rotation is going into. This will give you a lot of information on what's working in the markets and what isn't working in the markets. And the second thing is, when there are not many 52-week highs, you can tell that the market breadth has shrunk or the market is not cooperative as to how you should be trading. So usually, above 50 or closer to 100 daily is a good gauge on if one segment of the market's working, or if semiconductors are seeing rotation or out of it, or growth is seeing rotation out of it. Where is that money going? That's the most important question that you want to answer, right? If the money is staying within the markets itself, we're going from growth, semis, and we're moving to oil and gas and energy and commodity plays or utilities. Well, at the very least, there's rotation within the markets, right? And when the market is really, really brutal and wants to punish everybody, and we're going into a deeper correction, the 52-week high screen will not have many results because everything's going to get trashed in one go. So this is one of the key ones that you want to take a look at and have in your toolbox. I think this will allow you to gauge if a correction on the SPY, we'll pull that up, if the correction on the SPY is about to be a really deep correction, or we're kind of going sideways into a shallow correction, and then we'll go right back up the right side, right? As long as money is staying within the markets, it's a positive. As long as money is staying, rotating from one space to another and staying within the markets, that's a typical correction. When money is flowing out, not into small caps, not into mid caps, not into big caps, it's just, outside of the markets themselves, that's when we're about to really, go into one of these deeper ones. And this current correction, or this shallower pullback or choppy market, however you want to label this, there's been rotation into energy. And that's been really evident on the 52-week high screen when you run it every single day. So another way for you to kind of gauge, I would say, what, the top stocks or the top groups in the markets are at the moment. One way is the 52-week high screen, adding the sub-industry to see which one's most popular. The second one is you could use the data panel. So we have a lot of ranking systems that are built in, And the sector rank from a 1 month basis says that energy and utilities are your top two on a 1 month basis. You can add 3, 6, 9, and 12, but you could get a really clear picture as to what is working in the markets and what isn't working in the markets from this sector drop down. So the way to add that in your Deepvue, if you have it, is to just search sector. You can add sector ranks from 1, 3, 6, 9, and 12 month, depending on the frame that you're looking at. If you're a swing trader, you're looking at 1 to 3 months. And if you're a position trader, 6, 9, 12 month. 12 is the most typical one that's used. Usually lags a lot more as well. And we have rankings also based on the sub industry. So you can add the 1, 3, 6, 9 sub industry. That's a granular ranking. So it will tell you that semiconductor equipment is working a lot better than soft, data warehouses. And that's when you want to, get into the nitty-gritty details of which segment of the market or which particular area of the market is working a lot better than the others. So that's when you want to use sub industry here. All the rankings update once a day, and we recalculate them in the background. So you're always in tune with what's working best in the markets. So another neat thing is if I were to take a look at the group rank, when I click semiconductors, I can, when I click into it, it will filter your screener tables to show all your semiconductor stocks. So you can really rip through all these ones to see which ones are, some good setups out there. So you'll see a lot of them look really familiar, or the very in terms of price pattern look the same because they're part of kind of the same group that is acting well. So that was the 52-week high screen that I wanted to cover, and also the popular industry groups that you can track in Deepvue right in your data panel. I won't get into how you activate it and deactivate it. We have onboarding sessions and all of that. There, I just want to focus, today on a lot of knowledge on, how to navigate corrections and relative strength. Next, what I have written out is another way that I've developed based on really mathematical studies is the 62.5% RS day screen. So the number 62.5% comes out of the fact that every time the market pulls back and is going into a correction, stocks that exhibit relative strength 62.5% on average. This is an average number. Don't take it as absolute. So about above 60% or more of the time, if they're outperforming the markets while the market's in a correction or the market sideways, those stocks tend to be some of the best stocks in the market when we go up that right side, or we're done forming the base or the consolidation or the flag in the markets and the pressure lifts. And this screen really takes that study that I've done and kind of brought it into the platform. And this is the one that I run and I have up on my dashboards when the market is correcting. It gives me a really clear indication that if a stock is willing to perform or willing to outperform the markets 60% of the time, then it's a really good bet, from a risk reward perspective, or when the pressure lifts and the breadth increases and a whole bunch of stocks go up. Well, these ones should, are some of the best ones to participate in as well. So I like to use this screen. I also get to see from, by adding the sub industry column to see which ones are some of the most popular trends that are developing while the market's correcting. So those are highlighted blue. And this is something that I run on a daily, also on a weekend basis, if and when we are correcting in the market. So that's relative strength days. That's the study that I particularly did, and we configured into the platform. The next thing, there's another way that super easy to get a hold of what's happening in the markets is to build yourself an ETF list, a list of key ETFs and what's going on, and they kind of capture different segments of the market. So I have this ETF list with about 55 different themes that are added to this list, and I sort that by absolute strength 1 month. Absolute strength again is purely based on price performance today versus what the price was 1 month ago, and we rank all of those stocks versus themselves. There's not rocket science. Likely other platforms can configure the same, but absolute strength is one of the best, momentum price ratings out there that gives you a clear indication on where and what's happening. I like to sort it by absolute strength 1 month. I like to add the Weinstein stages to it. What that gives me, it gives me a clear idea of that if that particular ETF or that theme is in a stage two uptrend, or we're seeing some sort of oversold bounce, and that's what the 4B minus represents here. So some of the top, stuff, segments in the market at the moment are energy, obviously from three different angles, medical, airlines, and then one that I've been particularly paying attention to is the fact that the semis are in a relative strength phase, and on a 1 month basis, the SMH is acting a lot better and trying to outperform the markets. The second thing that's neat about this is you'll see the little H right next to it. When you click it, you'll get the holdings for that particular name, right? So now I can go through, I can sort by the holdings from high to low, and I can really get into what does that ETF have inside it that makes it one of the top, performers or themes in the market at the moment. And you can see, ARR went into a relative strength phase on December 23rd, starting active well, it gives you a setup. You trade that from 33 to 40. I personally, again, don't trade energy. I've not had the best luck with it, but it gives you the themes right away, right? You build an ETF list. A lot of people are going to ask me, please put the ETF list in the comments. So I'll do that right now before I am asked. But this is available as a preset as well in Deepvue. So if you go to watch list presets, we have the Jeff Sun equal weight ETF list. He's a great trader out there. And then we also have the Richard Moglen ETF list as well. We have thematic ETF lists for both sector, volatility, S&P 500, Bitcoin, and other ones throughout the platform. So there's a lot of ETF lists out there, and I pasted mine as well. So you want to go under ETFs, watch list presets, top traders. You get Richard Moglen and Jeff Sun, and also our thematic ETF list here as well. So the idea again is to track rotation in the markets, to track what's working in the markets, to track where the money is rotating into and what's acting the best while we're in a correction or a shallower pullback or a flag type of situation that we've had recently. So that was how you kind of want to look at it from an ETF perspective, and then you get into individual stocks by clicking the holdings right there. What I want to cover next is the relative strength line. I think very underappreciated and makes it really easy and really visual for you to look at stocks that are outperforming the markets. And I got a lot of questions because I've been posting a lot more charts recently on my socials and all, but I'll cover that now. So what I have up on my charts is the Deepvue relative strength line. And the settings for that are very simple. It's comparing the price performance of a stock to the S&P, so SPY ETF. I'm plotting it as a line, and the moving average that I have on there is the 21-day SMA. These are the settings that I found best for myself. The reason I use the S&P versus the Qs is because the S&P 500 will not see rotation in and out of it. So there will be times in the market where small caps are working a lot more than the NASDAQ 100 or growth. And in those situations, S&P 500 is the same index that can tell you if there's rotation happening and it stays intact. It stays sideways or it flags out. Whereas there can be times in the market where all of a sudden the Dow Jones is the best index, right? And the Qs are below the 50-day. We've had those several situations in the past several years. But in that situation, if I compare it to the Qs, I won't have an accurate representation. So my benchmark for how I trade and how I see the markets is S&P is the same child, and everything around it is pretty insane, right? You can see rotation in and out of it. And it's a true gauge of if the market is going to hold up and rotate, have a rotational correction, or if the market is going to complete, go for, cutthroat, nothing's going to work and pull back. So that's why I use SPY. So those are the settings for my Deepvue relative strength line. I use the 21-day SMA. The typical question is, why don't you use EMA? It doesn't matter. You use whatever is best. We have both configured. It's not a debate that you want to get into. It's more so what works best for your personality and trading style. For my trading style, SMA is a lot better. I don't want recent performance to skew my decision making. I want the longer term performance to be equal weighted and skew my decision making. So the way I look at this is, if a stock is outperforming the markets, the relative strength line, which is this blue line, will trade above the average. So what I call that is a relative strength phase. And if a stock remains in a relative strength phase, it means it's consistently on an average basis, based on its RS line, outperforming the markets. And that's how I want to trade the markets as well. So when something like Hood is consolidating, right, and in this area right here, where there was a lot of uncertainty as to which direction the market might go in, well, Hood is outperforming the market, so I want to keep it on my watch list. And if and when the setup forms and I can really define my risk, I can then trade that stock and make significant gains on it. The same thing happens with some of these earlier entries that I've had in a stock like ALAB. So if a stock is done bottoming, has a higher low, goes into this 4B minus setup, which is another conversation to have. But the idea is that if and when it starts to outperform the markets, that's when I want to be in this trend, right? And when it does not outperform the markets and goes into a sideways consolidation or a new base, well, then the relative strength line is below its average as well. So that's how I use the relative strength line. It's a fairly simple concept, but I would say a powerful one. So if folks want to marry AMD and be it the only stock that they want to trade in the markets, well, AMD has consistently underperformed and has not provided a setup in the markets for you to trade. A lot of folks will point to, hey, it went blue right here, why didn't you trade it? There's no setup that was formed the day that it went up. There's no setup there, right? And they got annihilated. There's no setup over here. There's really no setup. Maybe it confirms another day. It didn't. Now you go back, you're underperforming worse of the market. So it's a good tool to kind of look at stocks that have now been out of favor, that were in favor for a very long time. But it's also a good tool to go and look back and say that, okay, we were in a deeper base and it started outperforming the markets right in this area. That's where I want to be involved in CELH. When it's now outperforming the markets and it's completely underperforming, it's something that I don't want to be a part of at all. So that's how I use the relative strength line. That's how I define phase. There are many examples recently that you could take a look at. If I go to the HV, so if anything is underperforming the markets, it will have the relative strength line be lower. So if this was something that was tracked by a lot of folks right in this area, because it was just one of those stocks that got a lot of eyes, got follow through volume, but then it started underperforming the markets right here. So I've not been interested in getting involved right in this region, because again, you want to be in the best performers in the markets, and the relative strength line being below its average means this is not one of the better ones out there. I will cover two positions that I have at the moment, which is what I said I would do as well. So that again is snow. I like to trade one of my edges in the markets is the highest volume ever. So this is the highest volume ever on snow. The stock is kind of gone, consolidated sideways, underperformed, and is now starting to outperform. This is where I got really interested, is when it goes into a relative strength phase, it's starting to outperform the S&P 500, and it is tightening price action. So the plus that you see on my charts, I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions on what that plus is. It's basically whoops, I got rid of it altogether. It's the DV technical patterns indicator. Add that in, and then I go to settings, turn everything else off, and it's the RMV with the 21 and 7 settings. That's what I'm using. And then I go to style and make it a plus. Just that, increase or decrease the opacity, and then show it below the bar. Okay, and that is what this plus is on my chart. So it gave a really low risk entry area. It showed outperformance. So while the market was pulling back or there was uncertainty, the stock is starting to outperform. So it gives you a nice tight consolidation with an easy way to define your risk. And now it's starting to work. It's still really early on snow as it goes up the right side. So that's one of my positions. The other one is Tesla. Same kind of thing, but I'm more so anticipating here. So I want the RS line to be rising, and it has risen as the market came back in. It gave a really tight entry area where I could control my risk. There's a lot of, I would say, uh, other factors that go into this. It's expected to be, from a humanoid and robotics and all of these areas, to be one of the leaders in that space. So that plays into it, and it's a really liquid stock. I've traded this in and out. I've had, tremendous success in this area, trading it in the past. So I'm really familiar with how this stock is going to trade and how it tightens up. And now the next steps are, it goes into a relative strength phase. It's been starting to just act well. I've been building out my position, and these pluses represent, RMB, which means the price action is relatively tight to itself on a 21-day basis, which allows me to define risk really, really tightly. So that's my second position in the markets. And I think it's a good time to kind of pause here. We have 39 questions. I will start to answer some of these as well. Again, if you guys have questions, please make sure that you ask them in the Q&A. It will be very hard for me to get to everything in the chat and the Q&A. So Happy New Year. By the way, I thought fundamental data from S&P was supposed to be up and running back in November. What happened? What's the new ETA? No, it wasn't supposed to be up and running in November. It is. There are some integrations that we've done now. So we have added quite a few new ones. So gross the profit margin was added recently. And then another one that was added was the CEO data points. And then on Monday morning, we're going to add ROE, ROA to the platform. And it's going to be, sequentially added. We're going to have tons of fundamental data points that you could possibly think of. All the, cash flow, income statements, and all that stuff is going to start to see, you'll start seeing it under the fundamentals on the platform. So the new ETA is the rest of January. We're doing integrations and pushing out these data points bit by bit, so they all get equal attention. And then likely by mid-Feb, we'll finish the full integration. When to use RS 1 month versus 3 month versus 6 month versus 12 month, depending on how long the pullback or correction happens. So there's two aspects to it. RS 1 month represents the price performance over a 1 month time span. So if you're a swing trader, you want to use 1 and 3. I think they would work better. And if you're a position trader, 6, 9, and 12 would work better because you're looking at likely weekly charts and 10-week lines and bigger bases and less momentum, I would say. So that's how I kind of look at it. I use 1 and 3. And I use one RS 1 month purely for screening because I want to find the strongest stocks in the market over the past month and trade the market for momentum only. So that's how I kind of look at that situation. Does Deepvue have a comp rating, EPS rating, SMR rating, or something comparable to these? Deepvue does have a comp rating, our equivalent. We call it the Deepvue rating. We're going to rename that to comp rating just because it's so popular, the naming of it. We do have an EPS rating. So all of our ratings are, if you click new screen, go to proprietary ratings. So the first one is EPS. So we do have that. We have a sales rating as well, by the way. A fundamental rating, which combines EPS and sales and some other factors. We have a fundamental rank. So we have a lot of these ratings pre-configured for you. And we're going to rename the Deepvue rating to comp rating because essentially it's combining all these different rating systems into one and weighting them accordingly. Interesting. Jim Ropel defines a TML as a stock that has three. So again, different traders will define different things, giving it the same names. Ropel is obviously very successful and a money manager and a hedge fund manager. So that is his definition of it, which I fully agree with, is the three beat and the three raise. Essentially what he's looking for is stocks that will really look really, really good. If I look at Kava, this one he was in recently, right? He's looking at some of these numbers from pre-IPO and IPO perspective, and he wants to catch those gappers, right? He wants to have 3 or 4 earning cycles and he wants to remain in that stock. So different definitions. For me, a market leader, the essence of it is it's going to outperform the markets, and I want to be involved in that particular stock. And when themes align and the market conditions align with that particular stock, you'll see price momentum to the upside, be it 3/4 of raises or just price seeing 3 gaps in a row. If we take a look at something like ANF as well, right? So 3 gaps, and then the price goes from 26 to 190. So there could be a price definition to it. There could be a fundamental definition to it. Whatever suits you best, use that. What is the indicator at the top of the panel? The indicator is DP relative strength. We already covered that. Can you briefly explain ADR? ADR is the average daily range. So if we take a look at just a single price bar. So if we look at, I'm going to really zoom in, and the average daily range. So the average daily range means the high and the low. How volatile is that stock on an average basis? So if I say ADR 10-day, the last 10 days, what's the average range when you do the high minus the low of that particular stock, right? And then when you sum that up, it will give you an average percentage. So if a stock has ADR of 2%, on average, the high and the low, the stock is moving up and down 2% intraday, right? So that's what ADR is essentially. So let's keep going. Is RS versus all the stocks in the database? Yes, it is. We take all the common stocks and rank them versus themselves. We take all ETFs separately and rank all ETFs among themselves. So there's 2 segmentations to it and how we go about it. The recording of this will be on YouTube. It will be sent out. If you're on the list and you're here, you'll receive the recording. While on the Deepvue Leaders, how do you get the data panel of the stocks data tab? Is there a data panel preset that you're using? I'm not using one. I'm not using a data panel preset. The stocks data is one that I've created for myself. It has company information. Actually, I'll just share the link to this because we have the ability to do that. So I'll just say my data panel. And if you click that, you can import the exact same data panel into your Deepvue. Can you cover industries highlighted blue again? Is that a standard on searches for? Okay, so the way this works is if I am on a particular screen, let's go back to the Deepvue Leaders screen, right? Now, the most popular sector in this particular screen at 163 results on a 1 day, when I sort it by 1 day and we screen for that criteria, actually the sort doesn't matter. So just want to make sure I set it. So if I run this screen and I add the sector, group, industry, or sub-industry column to it, the most popular, the most amount of symbols on this list are part of that information technology. So that gives me key insight that on Friday, based on the screen that I ran, the most popular sector was information technology, or the most popular group was software and services. So you'll see that some of those stocks were up a lot more than some of the, it just gives me key information as the money is going into or back into, again, on a 1 day basis, back into software and services. So Friday was all about that. It was the most popular one on my screen. Is there a way to screen for all-time highs like 52-week highs? Yes, there is a way to screen for all-time highs. We should have a data point for that. So we have all-time high and all-time low. So we'll likely make a preset if we don't have it. So I'll make note of that. Yeah, we don't have all-time high, all-time low as a preset. So we'll add that as a preset, but we do have the screening capability when you type in all-time high, when I click that. it will say all-time high, yes. So we do have that capability. Is there a way to combine stocks that are on 2 or 3 preset watch lists into one where you pick them out for your new list? Those stocks show up in multiple preset watch lists. Yes. So we do have this capability now for you to combine different watch lists or screeners together. So let's say I want to run multiple screens, let's say the Deepvue Leaders and the Deepvue Universe at once. I can create a DV ultimate screen, and then now it will combine the results of those 2 screens. Or if I add watch list presets to it, I can also do that. So if I want Jeff's ETF list and Richard's and all the unique results of those 2 ETF lists in one list, I can use the combo feature that we rolled out, which has a bug. But the combo feature that we rolled out to essentially combine these 2 watch lists. So I can call this like the ultimate ETF list. Click that, it will combine, give me 91 ETFs. These are the ETFs that are present both on Richard's and Jeff's list. It combines them and gives you a unique list. Are current year IPOs disqualified from the 52-week high criteria? No, no. Current year IPOs are not. I would say anytime price is making a new high in the markets, you want to be aware of those stocks, right? So 52-week high criteria does not exclude price making a new high. Okay, so I'll keep going with these. How do you analyze themes? One way is to look at ETFs and sort them by absolute strength 1 month. The second way is to look at the sector, group, and sub-industry rankings to see what's acting well in the markets. You could see that oil and gas on a sub-industry, drilling, storage, equipment, they're 4, 5, and 6 on a sub-industry basis on a 1 month. That tells me that the market is seeing rotation into that space. So all, exploration and production, refining. So energy is seeing a whole bunch of money flow into it because it's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on the sub-industry level. So that's how I analyze themes. Money is going to that space or has been over a 1 month basis. But if you want to look at where money is going from a 3 month, 6, and 9, you can add those accordingly by using the sub-industry rank 1, 3, 6, 9, and 12 months. Wait, how do you get the names in the semis on the left side? I can't figure out how to do that. So let's just say if I'm on SMH and I want this, I click the holdings and I have the holdings for SMH right there. I X out of it. I go back to where I came from. So anytime you have an ETF, you could go back into the holdings and come back to your list. So this is the Robo ETF and its holdings. You X out of it. And to get stocks, let's say I'm interested in, what's moving oil and gas exploration to be the 8th particular sub-industry group at the moment. If I click that, the table will now load. You just got to click. Each of these are clickable in the data panel. So when you click that, it will give you a list of stocks to go through as well. So it's kind of top-down research made really, really easy. When you click it, why is healthcare 11? Well, these are the stocks that make it up. Why is securities and alarms, and the number of stocks is also listed as well. So it makes, why is something at the very top. So if why is semiconductors on a 1 month group rank, the second one here, you could click that and you go through all the ones that are associated with that particular group. Okay, I've been unsuccessful in copying Richard's rank dashboard and resize it and add graphs. Can I get some help with that? So I think it's talking about the dashboard group ranks that we have over here. All you have to do is go to Deepvue, dashboard presets, group ranks, click this and duplicate it. Once you duplicate it, you'll have the ability to edit it. We don't allow the edit for the presets because everybody is supposed to see the same thing. And we're working on a lot of UI. Like this is not the best UI that you see. It's all spread out. It's not the best, right? If you had a smaller screen, it works. But if you have a huge screen like I do, there's a lot of white space. So we're working to fix that. But for you, to click the 3 dots, go to duplicates, and it will work. Can you combine your screens to filters for names that populate on multiple screens? Can you combine? We are working on that at the moment. That's another dimension or the next step to our combo list. So right now we introduced combo. Next, we'll have another option called unique. So you'll have the ability to do both. It's a good thought. It's already in queue for us. Can I create a screen of stock slash ETFs filtered by name? We don't have that at the moment. That's something that we are working to do, and we will get done. So that's already in the works. You'll have the ability to go to screens, new screens, and under general, there will be company description, and you'll have the word contains. So you'll be able to run a screen based on, give me all companies where the company description contains the word AI, where the company description contains the word solar, where the company description has the word semiconductor. So then you could build a screen for on the database using just a string or a keyword, and it will give you all the stocks that meet that particular criteria. What's the difference between the absolute strength and the relative strength? Absolute strength is price performance. Price performance. So if I say absolute strength 1 month or absolute strength 3 months, it's the price today versus what the price was 3 months ago. And we take that, compare it, among all the stocks in the database and rank them from, 1 to 99. So absolute strength is based on pure price performance. Relative strength is based on it has a weight. It weights the recent action more than the previous action, and then it gives you a mixture of that weighting. So one's a weighted calculation, the other is a non-weighted calculation. I got a new screen. Thank you. Can you provide? I pasted my ETF list in the chat a little bit ago, but you can also have these presets that we have. You can always go to watch list, drop down, watch list presets, top traders, and these two as well. That's done. Okay, might be a quick question for Nick, but if you are using the weekly charts, what time frame would you use for? I don't think he uses it. You can ask him on social media and stuff. I don't think he uses the RS line on the weekly. He's purely looking at price. I love looking at the RS line. Again, there's many ways to do it. I look at the daily charts, and if something's outperforming, it's really, really clear on the daily. I'm not sure which settings to use on weekly. I just don't use it. What's new coming up and when are fundamentals coming up? So Monday morning we'll have ROE and ROA available. Last week we put new CEO, founder CEO, and profit margins into the platform. The week after that we'll have institutional fund ownership data that makes it to the platform, and insider ownership data points as well. So it's happening. So Monday morning is our first one, and then by the end of the month we'll match many popular platforms out there, including Market Surge. What do the dots on the RS line represent? So these dots are, if I go to settings, these dots are, the pink dot is when the relative strength line is making a new high before price makes a new high. That's what we call the pink dot. And when the relative strength line is making a new high, it's a green dot. So when relative strength lines make a new high, there's a green dot. This is a pink dot. Pink dot represents that the price is it has a lot of potential backing it up. How do you add the Weinstein stage to RS? Great question. So I'm assuming I go to ETFs. So anything that's a data point in Deepvue is a column. So if I search Stan, I click that. So Stan Weinstein stages, it's a column over here. So I go to settings for my columns. I go to settings, and then I search Stan Weinstein stages, and it's this one right here. And they show up right here. How do you screen for RS phase? We'll have that capability likely in about a week and a half's time. At the moment, we don't have that capability to screen for relative strength phases. We will have that relatively shortly. Same question on the pink and the green. So don't get too tied up with, I would say, like indicators and all that. Like The idea here is to find outperforming stocks. No indicator is going to be your savior, and interpreting price and volume action. But this gives you a really visual indication as to what's happening, right? When you look at the chart for SMH, you would say this is, a choppy mess. I don't know what's going on. It's just going sideways ever since September last year. It's gone sideways, but you can see that there's consistent outperformance of semis that's starting to happen as the market started to pull back. So that way you can anticipate that the next move, or if and when the growth space or the value space is done and the utilities are done going up and all that stuff, money may come back to semiconductors, right? And this relative strength line gives you that indication. While if I purely looked at price, I would say this is a pig of a stock or a pig of an ETF because it's just going sideways, right? ETFs are aggregation, they're bigger aggregates of multiple stocks within them. And this information just tells me that the semis might have the next move. So when we look at Marvel, it's starting to move, right? Starting to move up the right side. When you look at CRDO, starting to move up the right side, right? So AVGO starting to move up the right side. So that from an ETF perspective is giving you an indication that it's outperforming. Then you dig a level deeper to find those individual names. I hope that really makes sense. I think I explained it a lot better now than I did at the start. Can you elaborate more on the RMD as tight risk entry area? Yes. So let's take a look at a few examples of this. So essentially, what RMV is, it gives you, the price of a stock, how tight is it trading relative to itself over a span of time, right? It's not, some crazy calculation. It's just essentially that, right? So when you see some of these dots that pop up, I'm not using these as buy signals. A lot of people get tied into the fact that there has to be a buy signal and a sell signal for me to be successful. No. Uh, this is just interpreting some action, right? As if we take a look at this trade right here in November, right? I was away. I didn't take this trade. I was uh had a newborn, but when the price pulled back in, right? The stock started to outperform the markets right about here. But as we built out this little formation, volume decreased. So decrease in volume with tight price action, which is what this plus is showing, this plus. So now Amazon is tight relative to its action. That's what this plus is doing. I can really define my risk by taking the trade on this day and placing my stops at the low of it. If you haven't watched the RMV webinar that we have on our YouTube channel by Richard, he does a 90-minute webinar explaining RMV to you. I highly suggest that you watch that. But the essence of it is it's giving you a tight logical pivot area and an area to define your risk. So if Amazon wants to come back in and not outperform the markets here, you get stopped out relatively quickly. If it does, you catch the move, right? The move that just happened. The same thing kind of happens as you go through, like it's relatively tight. You could define your bottom side risk really well if and when it gets to the top, and then you could take that trade to the upside when it outperforms. So definitely watch that webinar with Richard. He spends considerable amount of time explaining RMV and what it is and how he trades it and how he defines pivots in his trading. Okay, a lot of questions. So there's 72 questions. I likely won't get through many of these, but can you share your column settings for this? Yes, let me do that. So if you have Deepvue, I have an ETF column set, which I can share with you. If I go to not WTF, ETF. So here's my ETF column set. So if you click that, it will be imported into the platform as well. Can you check CRDO? I just did. I mean, if again, this CRDO is the same thing, right? If we really take a look at it, prices gapped up. The stock is then consolidated because the market is kind of asking it to consolidate. It's getting tight, so these pluses show up. Again, these are RMBs. These are not buy signals. I really want to be really clear. The price is tightening in this formation, and it gives you a really tight risk area versus the gap low or versus this particular day's low, so that when you're wrong, you can get out, but when you're right, you'll have that upside. So it's just a risk management. The relative strength line, it's outperforming. It dipped, it's continuously outperforming the markets in this phase when things were pulling back. Now it's starting to push up because the pressure is starting to lift in the markets. Now, that doesn't guarantee you that this is going to end up at 100 Monday morning, but it gives you really nice, and tight risk areas to play versus, play it against. And then it is a clear indication that CRDO, as the market's kind of gone in a flag formation, has stayed upright, and sideways rather than going into a flag formation with the markets, and it's outperforming the markets. That's the most important thing there. Can you explain the Weinstein stages to a 2B and 4B minus? It will take me a considerable amount of time to do that. We have a video on our YouTube channel. If you go to Deepvue YouTube, Google search it, go to the channel and type in Stan Weinstein. We've done 4 or 5 videos just based on stage analysis that you can watch that are really, really great. Okay, so we've checked CRDO. Let's see. Yeah, so a lot of same questions about stocks. We've already checked many of these. Is it possible to add a DV stage analysis similar to the other DV indicators? So the number, yes, that is something that we will definitely do. At the moment, you can get the number of stages. What I've done is pin, I go to this preset, I type in stage, and I've pinned each of these up top here. So it tells me stage 1, there's 110 stocks. I've kind of modified the definitions to meet some liquidity criterias, but stage 2, there's 1543, and stage 4, 2066. There's more stage 4 than stage 2 in the markets at the moment. Did I miss? Okay. Okay, a lot of the same questions coming through, which have been answered. Is it possible to change the heat map colors? No, not at the moment. We're working on better heat map colors. That's going to come up really shortly. The colors at the moment are just horrible. I agree. I've been telling the team that these are not the best colors. Like the baby blue on white is not the best. This will improve. We are actively working on it. Where do I find the saved ETFs? Again, if you go to watch list, anything in Deepvue that we've discussed today is likely a preset. So if you go to this drop down, you go to watch list presets, you can get these ETFs right here. What is the power 3? So I'm not going to answer that. That's a great question. I would just Google it. It's not, the topic of conversation today. Can I download your chart setup and go build? Yeah, so we're working on chart presets. We're working on chart presets. They will be available soon. So just like we have screener presets and watch list presets, we're going to have chart presets where you can, see my charts, and I can share a link with you, and it will be the same chart setup that I have. Oh. Okay, so perfect. A lot of great questions. So any desktop app, we don't have a desktop app just yet. Can you explain the stage analysis indicator? So there's a video on our YouTube that will answer that. So if you go to deepvue.com or youtube.com/deepvue, type in stage analysis, and it will go right into the stage analysis indicator. When will you have data for Indian stocks? Likely next month. There's a lot of delay because the exchanges there are not too cooperative. What are the dots on the RS line? This is discussed. Can't copy your ETF from the chat. I will post it elsewhere or email it out. as well. Do you have any presets for stocks that can be shorted? Probably. So shorted. So if you go to weak stocks would be one. It will likely look for the absolute strength 3 months to be less than 25 and absolute strength 1 month to be less than 25. So these are the the bottom 25% of the market is in this, and you can see AMD's on there. So it's likely a good idea that you don't want to anticipate a bottom here, even though it seems to be really popular as to where the bottom will be. So yes, we do have one called weak stocks. I'm new to Deepvue, joined yesterday. Can you guide me through the process to get familiar with Deepvue? So there's a lot of videos. If you're new to Deepvue, you go to help. Actually, you could go to the knowledge base. We have a full knowledge base for you with a welcome message and a platform walkthrough that is always kept up to date. So this is a quick start guide with Richard running through some of the how to use Deepvue. We have education tab where we have a whole bunch of tutorials, and all the events, including this one, will be available. So we have a Deepvue platform walkthrough right under education and events that you could take a look at, and all the previous webinars are available here as well. We have articles on how to use Deepvue in many different ways. So folks that are asking stage analysis, you can read this article. Folks that are asking market intervening stuff, you can read this article. So all of these are available as well. So there's a lot of things that you can, kind of take a look at. But I think keep it very simple. Try to look at the screener. There's onboarding sessions every Tuesday that we run where it's kind of smaller size setting, and we help folks out that way. But it should be real, it's very easy. You click this, look at what happens. We've made the platform as intuitive as we possibly can. And we're also having some UI improvements that are coming to make it look a lot simpler and better. Can we do ATR screening for each stock? Yes, you can. We have ATR and ADR both. So if I go to screen, I have ATR on the dollar perspective and a percentage perspective. So you can scan our entire database for ATR. So, ATR last 10 days is greater than 5 or 4. You can do that, and it will pull up all the stocks with the ATR 10-day of 5 or more. So that's in the platform already. I'm just getting to know Rye for what's worth. I'm proud of you. Thanks so much for the nice message. Is it possible to insert scripts into Deepvue to customize and create your new indicators? That's something we're working on and will be rolled out this quarter. We've been working on it much of Q3 and Q4 last year as well. And we're going to start to see some of that come to life this quarter. Are you guys working to add additional capability to get stocks with HVE on a historic? Yes. We're going to call that time range screening. It will be a calendar type of thing that shows up when you create your screens. And you can run any screen that you've already created on a span of time. So that is being worked on this quarter as well. How do you add a chart, a SPY so how do you add SPY? I would click this, compare, add SPY, and then add that to a new pane. And now you have the SPY action. If you want to add it to the same pane, you just go existing pane above. Or another better way would be to look at the object tree, and I want my SPY line to be part of my relative strength area. So now you can see that when I click object tree, I can drag things a lot better, right? So now I have SPY and the relative strength line. A lot of people do this as well. Can you add a column for sector rank last period, 1 month, 3 months? Yes, you can do that. So anything, anywhere that's a data point can be a column and is also screenable. So if I add sector rank, I click column settings show up, I search, and then I can add any one of these to it. And then when I expose that, all these show up right here. So you can sort by them. You can do whatever it is that you like. We're gonna have a cutoff at about 12:15, so I'll have 5 more minutes to go through this. So what are the settings for the DV technical patterns? I covered that. It's 21 and 7. How does ADR compare with ATR? One's based on the high-low, and the other is based on the close. So true range versus daily range, that's the difference. You could quickly Google what the different, this is. I would quickly Google that. How do we enable the RS 1 day column under technicals? I only have RS 5 days. You just type in relative strength. We should have both of them for you. That is weird. How come I have it? Let's take a look. RS 1 day. So this is the RS rating 1 day. So RS rating 1 day. It's this right here. So our naming has to get a lot better. Our search has to get a lot better. That both are being worked on. Both will be out in January. Our search for screener is much better now. So like if I type in relative strength, it looks much better. It's much easier to navigate. We're bringing that same search to column settings in about a week or two here. So you want to type in RS rating 1 day. I never get an email from you guys for these sessions recordings. Is there something that I need to do? Just email hello@deepvue.com and we will take a look at your email and get you in. Do you use Launchpad ideas? I do from time to time. So if I go to my weekend screening dashboard, I have Launchpads right here. It's one of the screens I run on a weekly basis. I also have 62.5%. So this is my weekly dashboard with, I go IPO 1 year, all of S&P, high type flags, HV screen, Launchpads, and 62.5%. Those are my core weekend screens. And I changed the S&P 500 to NASDAQ 100 and Russell. So I'm flipping about a lot of charts to get a feel for the markets. Can you scan for stocks to increase volume week over week? Yes, you probably can in the screener. There should be, if I go to weekly volume versus 10-week, 30-week, 40-week, weekly volume versus last week. So that's the one you're looking for a volume comparison. So that exists as well. We also have volume versus yesterday as part of it. So there's a lot of capability like that. If you can think of it, we've worked on it and configured it for the most part. If we haven't, then we're working on it. So what is the meaning of pocket pivot in the enhanced screen? So Google that, like pocket pivot trader line. We have a really amazing article on that. Just pocket pivot trader line. You'll find everything you need to know about pocket pivots. What was your entry tactic for Tesla? I would say it was this is something I haven't discussed much, but my trading has kind of moved away from pivot based, like where you draw a line and if it crosses this line, then I'll buy it, to something that I define as correlation. So correlation pivots are essentially, I'm really focused in on 1 to 3 names in the market and that I feel like have tremendous potential. And then I really track those names. And this entry was based on the fact that it was showing relative strength. I expected the cues when they broke that prior low. I expected Tesla to lead lower. It didn't. It held this low from January 2. And that is when I started building my position in it. And what I call that is more a correlation. These are correlation pivots rather than waiting on the high. You draw a line. That's great. Like to draw a line, define a pivot, wait for it to go, then look at volume, then look at that. But I think I've kind of grown out of that type of system to really move to correlation pivots. Maybe a conversation for another day. I've answered, again, any questions that you guys have that you feel I haven't answered today, you go to the knowledge base and really type it in. So if I type in like absolute strength, it will literally give me, obviously it doesn't do that. Absolute strength, nope, AS. So we got to make it a little better, but most of the things that you are looking for will all be available here. So relative strength line, right? How is it configured? How do you add it to your charts? Was this article helpful? Definitely use this helpful thing. We look at it a lot to improve them. But everything, every data point, any feature, anything that you saw today is a part of the knowledge base. And then the second best resource is our Deepvue YouTube channel. Stan Weinstein stages, relative strength, corrections, breakouts. They have all been prior webinars that you want to watch. Really great ones as well. Okay, we got 3 or 4 more minutes. Can you explain the color code on the volume section? Definitely. So, color coding for this is, for me, if I go here, if it's associated with an update in the markets, it's blue. If it's associated with a down day, it's this pink. Um, if it's a pocket pivot, it's green. If it's a reverse pocket pivot, which means it's the lowest volume in that it's the lowest volume in 10 days in a particular stock, it's orange. And then the pink is that I could probably use better colors, but the pink is the average volume. The inputs, I have the average volume on a 50-day. I could probably do that to 20. The weekly, again, these are, just the settings I'm showing because folks love to know what I'm using. So, okay. Is DPO available for the Indian markets? It will be in probably this quarter. We're still working with the exchanges. Can alerts be set on a certain stock for RMB technical pattern? That's a great question. Conditional alerts are or will be doable by the first week of February. We're testing them now into the end of January for the platform. So that's going to happen relatively soon. So then you will be able to set an alert on RMB as well. So show me an alert when RMB moves below 10, for example, you'll receive that alert. So. Okay, we got a couple more minutes before I bore everybody. How do you add Stan Weinstein rank to the left hand of the screen? So I think I covered that. So you just go to settings, the columns, and then the settings over here. And when I type in Stan, it will show up and I add this as a column. So that's over here. Perfect. What are your best edges? Again, the highest volume and relative strength. Really two that I have mastered for myself. I cannot add RS new high before price to my screen. Please advice. You just create a new screen, or you could use one of the presets to get started. So if I go here, screen or presets, you could just duplicate it to get started. Awesome. I will go back and check the onboarding. Yeah, definitely do that. If you have questions, always reach out to us. Like we're here. We have an amazing support team. Click contact us if you have a question. And I would say even if you're just a little too lazy to look at everything else, just throw it our way. We'll point you to the right place. We have resources assigned to it to help you out, to point you in the right direction. Any chance to chart group and subgroups? No, we're working on that. It's just there's a sequence of things that will happen for that to become a reality. And that first thing is to finish the fundamental data points. Once we finish that, then we will get into making some of the drop downs in the data panel better. So you know that transports have moved from 10th to 6th really, really quickly. And then we will get into these being symbols themselves. Okay. Do you ever grade the health of the market based on the number of stocks? Yeah, it's a good way to do it. Like if any screen that you run in the markets on a consistent basis, I spoke about the 52-week high screen. If there are 64 results, the market's in good shape. If there are 10 results on the 52-week high screen, that's a brutal day in the markets, right? Now, if you use the Deepvue Leaders screen on a consistent basis, right? You're using the Deepvue Leaders screen day to day, you will automatically get a feel for 163 is a pretty good number. Whereas if it's 50, it's likely, the market, because this is based on strength, right? If everything's pretty weak in the markets and not meeting any of these criteria, then what that would mean is, this is not the best environment. or the breadth is not great, right? So that's another way to kind of gauge day-to-day market action. What are those black stars? Already covered that. Colors for second, third, and fourth. Okay. How to make multiple setup chart tabs. I don't know what that means, but you have the ability to do any of these configs. There's about 16 different ways you can look at charts when you click this. You could segment them in different time frames. People go crazy and do some of these as well. It's entirely up to you. But those are available. I like to just have my daily up. It's good enough for me. Do you plan on adding number of funds? Yes, number of funds will be added later this month to the platform. So that will be added later this month. Um, they will show up under fundamentals. We'll also create a data panel for it. We're going to make a lot of noise around that. So how do I get related market news when I'm looking at tickers? We don't have a news integration just yet. Something we will get to in a little bit. There's a lot of other things that we want to do first, but soon it will be so that when you hover over or you look at some stock, you know why it's moving up or down. Any concern that if Tesla stock could decline and be flat for months if Elon buys to, I don't know. I don't look at hypotheticals that way in the markets. I'm a really technical trader. If price comes back in and breaks, my average price on this is 389, somewhere in here is my average price. So if it comes back in and it negates everything that I'm looking at, I will just get out. Doesn't matter what Elon is doing or not doing. Um, does strong RS make stocks leaders, or is it multiple strong RS from the same group? That's a good question. So, a high relative strength rating doesn't necessarily mean that the stock should be bought, in my opinion. If something like ANF that has moved quite a bit, if you look at the weekly right here, so on a 12-month basis, the RS rating can still be 99, but the stock definitely is in a deeper base, is not going to outperform the markets. It hasn't outperformed the markets since August 19, 2024, so summertime. So if that's the case, this is the area you want to be involved in. And this is the area you don't want to be involved in as a swing trader. So that's why I really like the relative strength line. And it just shows you outperformance, underperformance. So perfect. So I hope this was helpful. I've answered about 86 questions. There's still 62 open questions. We'll never get to all of those. But if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to our support team. And a final reminder, if you guys, there's a special offer thing that if you're interested, just message the hello@deepvue.com and email our support team there, and they will help you out as well. So with that, I wish you guys a good weekend. Thanks so much for taking the time out of your Sundays. I hope this was helpful. We'll segment some of these sections out. And post them so that a lot more people could see them. I hope to see you guys next week where we'll cover how to navigate earnings, how I navigate earnings, how I tackle earnings, and how I use the platform to prepare for earnings as well. So with that, I wish you guys a good weekend, and I'll see you in the next one.